Today, we continue our Courage to Create series. As part of this larger worship here, exploring different expressions of courage and seeking to live more courageously ourselves. The artist Henri Matisse once said, "Creativity takes courage." When I think about creative forms that require the deepest courage, improv shows up at the top of my list. Improvisational theater, improvisational comedy, improvisational music, improvisational living can be scary. I imagine most of you wouldn't want to be thrown up on a stage and told to improvise, perhaps with the exception of our pianist today and maybe Reverend White. Improv challenges us to embrace the unexpected, both as the actor and the audience. Therefore, it takes great courage. Most weeks in worship, the ministers collaborate to tell a story based on what we find in what we call the magic box. And while we plan out the general message to tie into the theme of the day, what plays out on this chancel is largely improvisational. Now, if you had tried to get me to tell a magic box story a few years ago, I would have run out the doors right away. I like to plan. Preparation brings me comfort. I would have told you I'm not good on my feet. I need a script. I was and still am scared of failure and looking like a fool. How about you? But then there was that time last month when the audio clip from the movie Frozen of Elsa singing Let It Go didn't play at the moment we planned. After a few seconds of panic and looking desperately at my improv partner, Daniel, he nodded at me. So I brought the microphone to my mouth and sang, let it go, you can't hold it back anymore. So boy, was I relieved when in the second service, the music played as planned and all I had to do was lip sync dramatically. So it is possible for me and for you to summon the courage to create improvisationally. In fact, I think that these times that we live in require it. There are two kinds of improv, the kind that's made up on the spot like you would see at an improv theater performance, and then the kind that has some pre-planning behind it, like a flash mob. Now, I want to invite you to join me in a courageous act of improv of the first kind, right now, here in this sanctuary, by playing something called the Proverbs game. Proverbs are words of wisdom, like absence makes the heart grow fonder, or all that glitters is not gold. And the Proverbs game is one in which we invent a new proverb together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just point to one person, maybe at the end of a pew, and invite you to say a word, any word that comes to mind to start the sentence, and then we'll move quickly down the pew, adding words one by one, until it's clear that this proverb phrase is finished. Now, if you don't want to participate, you can hold up your hands like this and we'll skip over you. And when the proverb is finished, we will all put on a knowing, wise look, stroke our chins, and say, yes, 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 affirming the wisdom of the proverb that we have created together. Now, I trust that you'll play along, that you will come up with something that makes some sense and not say anything too inappropriate. Are you ready? Yes. Mary Lou. What's the word? Peace. Steve.
I would say colorful.
Peace, colorful. We got to make a sentence. Peace, colorful, and blissful. Peace, colorful, and blissful. Greats. Creates. Yep. Yes, that's good. A sentence needs a verb. Peace, colorful, and blissful creates community. That seems like a great proverb. Peace, colorful, blissful creates community. Nice job. Okay, let's see. Oh, yes. Thank you. How about Phil over here? Will you start us off? Sometimes. Life. Sometimes life needs bright quests. Sometimes life needs bright quests. I like that. Yes. Okay, I think that's enough, but let's applaud them for their courage. Thanks for playing along. As you can see, all of us have wisdom in us, and our experience is a source of truth and insight. This is something we believe as Unitarian Universalists. Each of us has something to add to the whole, and improv can draw it out of us. While we just created something together with no planning whatsoever, other improvisational experiences involve more preparation. If you got here early, you may have seen the video on the screens and been wondering what that was all about. It was an ode to joy video. What appeared at first to be a single tuxedoed street performer playing a bass for people in a plaza in Spain turned into this huge ensemble of more than 100 musicians and singers from the premier orchestras and operas in the area. It was highly planned, but the element of improv was in the reactions of the crowd gathered. There was fascination. There was pure joy. Children and adults were pretending to conduct the orchestra. And there was a feeling of, you could tell that there was a feeling of community created among those who gathered to watch. I think one of the best examples of this kind of improv are the so-called missions of Improv Everywhere, a New York City-based group that carries out missions around the world. Their missions are designed to be temporary, carried out by groups of strangers to create more beauty and fun in the world. And goodness, don't we know that we need more reminders of goodness and beauty and fun in our world. In 2010, my wife Erin participated in one of these missions in New York City. She was one of 3,000 participants, young and old, people from all kinds of backgrounds. Everyone downloaded an MP3 file and received a packing list ahead of time. At the specified time, they descended on an already very crowded Midtown Manhattan, put on their headphones and pressed play, and the instructions began. They perused local stores, straightening merchandise, petting products, scratching their heads in unison, and slow dancing with products that struck their fancy. Then they were instructed to leave the stores and make their way toward nearby Bryant Park. Along the way, everyone froze in place for a full minute, marched like they were in a marching band, formed long lines behind strangers copying their every move, and gave strangers high fives. Then everyone arrived at Bryant Park to wish Steve, one of the Improv Everywhere organizers, a happy birthday. All 3,000 people gathered around the edges of the park and yelled, "Surprise!" But the excitement got the best of them, and they deviated from the plan, running into the center of the park to mob Steve. Next, they were instructed to do a series of activities. They raced around the park. They used sheets of paper that they had brought with them, with one vowel and one consonant, to spell words with others. They partnered up and drew portraits of each other. They collectively drew maps of all the continents. How many of us could do that? They exchanged gifts in honor of Steve's birthday. And they used rolls of toilet paper that they had brought to turn each other into toilet paper mummies. And then when it was all over, they had a dance party. When that was over, many people stuck around and helped clean up the mess. They left the park exactly as they had found it, as if nothing had happened. And yet a lot happened. People laughed and connected with strangers. Together, they sparked joy in themselves and unsuspecting bystanders. The unexpected happened. They built community. And this was all possible because they trusted in the creative potential of a big group of strangers. When preparing for this worship year on courage, we did a group brainstorm, completing the sentence, "Courage looks like." And one person said, "Courage looks like a party. Maybe no one will show up." Some of Improv Everywhere's missions have been unsuccessful or had unintended effects. The weather interfered and hardly anybody showed up, or they realized that the impact of their mission, for example, fake fans showing up at a struggling band's show, ended up being hurtful instead of fun and encouraging. Courage looks like a party. It can be a flop, but it can also be a lot of fun, and it can bring people together in really transformative ways. So what does all this have to do with church, you might be wondering? I believe that there's a lot that we can learn from improv that applies to how we are as a church and to how we build community. We show up on Sundays, not knowing who else will show up, but trusting that together we will create something magical and meaningful. And more often than not, I think we do. There are some key principles of improv that make it work. And I think, what if we applied those principles to our lives and to this church community? In improv, something new is created together through saying yes and. Yes and. Improviser Amanda Hirsch suggests that we be willing to treat members of a community as scene partners, truly listening to them and showing them respect by yes-anding the ideas they share, rather than, as so often happens, offering a polite thank you and proceeding with business as usual. Saying yes allows the actors or us to share control and allows each person to shape the whole. We have a workshop coming up here on civil discourse, and I think if we said yes and more than we say no but, we'd be well on our way to more civil discourse in our society. Now, much to my dismay, improv is not about preparation. Preparation does not necessarily lead to a successful outcome. Improv shows us that it's possible to create something good not by preparing, but just by showing up to begin with. In fact, excessive planning can be an obstacle to seeing what's right in front of us. If I'm thinking of the next thing that I'm planning to do or say, I might miss an opportunity that's right in front of me in the present. And this leads me to another lesson of improv, which is pay attention, face the facts of what you have to work with, and wake up to the gifts that are already here. Improv theater involves finding the truth that is already present on the stage or in the pew. As we say in Unitarian Universalism, revelation is not sealed. There are truths within us and around us, and truth to be found in our experience that tells us something about life and meaning and God. Improv challenges us to notice these and to draw them out from each other. Stephen Nachmanovich, the author of our first reading, describes the free play of improvisational music making as an experience of opening each other's minds. In improv, you have to go where things are going, knowing that there's always something there to work with. As Patricia Ryan Madsen, a drama teacher, says, you don't need to abandon your dreams. Just don't let them get in the way of noticing what is taking place. Improv makes it possible for creative outcomes to emerge beyond what we could ever dream of. Another thing that improvisers know is that we must take care of each other. In improv theater, this basically means make your improv partner look good. Whatever happens, help each other out. And this takes a lot of courage and trust. I can think of numerous times in a more improvisational magic box story when we, your ministers, have done that for each other. When we show consideration and kindness toward each other in a scary or a risky situation, cooperation takes the place of competition that is so often fostered in our society. It's easier to summon the courage to live improvisationally when you have a good partner or a good team that you know has your back. Now, generally, improv is more about process than outcome, but I've heard multiple improv artists talk about the magic of what is created. Stephen Nachmanovich describes how he and his improv partner create a third thing. He says it is as though we have become a group organism that has its own nature and way of being. I think about how we do this as a church, how we become a community by embodying these principles that I've described. Madsen, the drama teacher, says this about outcomes. When I look at the final products and endings to this work, I see not so much my handicraft as that of a greater source. My lesson has been that Polonius's advice from Shakespeare's Hamlet, "To thine own self be true," isn't quite right. When I improvise, it isn't my truth that comes to light, so much as the truth that includes all of those with whom I share this life, the truth of this moment. She says that through this experience, the privilege of life becomes more apparent. My experience of this church community is that you and we are more comfortable with improvisation than many communities I've been a part of. We're not afraid to try new things and to shift course when they don't quite work out. We follow opportunities that have creative potential. We build on each other's ideas to create change together. And through serving this church, it's helped me be a better minister and it's helped me live a fuller life. I hope that the same might be true for you. Madsen says that life is an improvisation, and if we are lucky, a long one. If that's the case, which I think it is, we had better figure out how to embrace the potential of improv and how to summon the courage to face the unexpected joys and challenges that it presents. We must draw from that second kind of intelligence that Rumi speaks of in the poem, not the kind of intelligence that we get from books or teachers, but the intelligence that moves out from within us. We cannot prepare for everything in life, nor does life and community and society adhere to all the structures we try to establish. Sometimes we simply have to start where we are and work with our partners, whether that be family, friends, co-workers, or a church community, to create something new. Listening and paying attention along the way to the truths around us and letting that guide us in sometimes unexpected directions. Say yes, show up, start anywhere, pay attention, face the facts, wake up to the gifts, make mistakes, it's okay, and take care of each other. These are the lessons of improv, and they are life lessons. Surely goodness, truth, and joy will follow us all the days of our lives if we are open to them emerging in unexpected ways. Improv offers an important reminder that we are not alone, that joy is always just underneath the surface, and that if we have the courage to create together, we can face any wild or challenging prompt that comes our way. May it be so. Amen.